And then the next thing what I did was I cut that up into pieces because I really only wanted one note. I only wanted one note, which was the tonic, the main note of the song, and I was just going to use that for a long build and a transition. So if I kept it just on that one note, then it wouldn't conflict with anything in my chord progression. So let's hear that. So this should be... The next thing that I did was I added some distortion to really, again, give it some more grit, and then I gave it a much longer gesture using a filter and, again, changing the reverb mix at the same time. I hope I'm not getting too technical with a lot of this, but let's give that a listen. Okay, and that, I think that I accidentally put the wrong example in there, but there's, in the final example, there's actually a filter, so it kind of slowly builds up. Again, just using a lot of what's called automation, or changing parameters of different effects, such as reverb and filters that change the frequency content of sounds in time, so it's changing over time. I really used a lot of automation to create these gestures and these more macro changes in the song. So here's kind of a picture of what I was working in. All those blue lines right there, that is automation. And some of those effects are missing. But this is what I was working in at the time. It's a digital audio workstation called Cubase. And you can see the audio files there in the gray, and then the automation is what's changing those effects over time. And this is just a very small section of the song, maybe 20 measures out of like 160 or so measures total, maybe more than that. So that's kind of a look into my world, what I'm doing here. Again, it gets a little complicated. So I'm a little worried on time because I wanted to talk. I'll just try and zip through the... All right, fair enough. And again, please, guys, ask questions if you'd like. And we'll have time. We'll really ask a lot of questions later, too, if you'd like. But let's talk a little bit about the structure of this song. First of all, the real common or standard structure in pop music is really a verse, or the first verse, V1, chorus, second verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, right? So basically, the verse is often when the singer's kind of telling the story, saying what's actually happening, and then the chorus is what we often call the hook. It's really the big moment in the song where you really try and grab the listener, and it's where people either they like to rock out to, or if it's a sad song, they might cry to the chorus. But arrangement and structure can get very complicated very quick, and I tend to overcomplicate structure, I think, in a lot of my dance music songs. Often dance music only has two sections. Very, very, very simple. It'll just be the hook, and it'll just vary over time, and then it'll break down. It'll take away the drums, it'll take away the hook, and there'll just be kind of a calm, more relaxed moment. Then it'll build back up and hook again, and it'll vary between that once or twice. And that's really the simpler arrangements of songs. Some of you guys have heard of Deadmau5. He's a quite popular electronic music producer right now. That's kind of the structure he sticks to. He really only sticks between two main sections in a lot of his music. I tend to overdo it the opposite way, which you guys are going to see. So this structure works both for all kinds of music, not just electronic, but also a lot of pop music, rock, pop, indie, you name it. Still kind of does a lot of these what are called divisions. So the first verse can be divided into two parts, right? Even though the verse, if you listen to the vocals, you can really tell it's the verse, but the progression changes from the first half to the second half. Same with the chorus. And often, not only will it be divided like that, but sometimes you'll even have a pre-chorus, which leads up to the chorus, and then a post-chorus, which comes out of the chorus. So like I said, you can get very complicated very fast, but you can see kind of these easier types of divisions here. There's 2 sections to the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Okay. Now in dance music, very often we like, unless it's for a radio mix, we like to include a long intro and a long outro. And the reason for that is in the majority of electronic dance music, DJs that play at clubs that play this type of music like to match their beats together. They like to sync their songs up so that they play at exactly the same tempo. And in order to do that, especially the less skilled you are, usually the more time that you need. And in order to make it marketable, I tend to use an entire minute of intro, an entire minute of outro. And that has been standard for a long time, but the intros and outros are getting shorter now, partly because of technology, maybe partly because of DJs are getting better, or producers are getting lazier. Kind of depends on how you think about it. So basically, I added the intro and the outro, as you can see, at the beginning and the end, and then I made a couple other variations in the structure. One, like I said, it's very common in electronic music to have a breakdown, not to be confused with breakbeat, okay? Breakdown in dance music is where the song takes a break, but the beat itself usually goes away, and usually the hook goes away as well. And so what I use the breakdown for is similar to a bridge type of idea. I kind of tease the chorus, so I write B as in breakdown or bridge, however you want to think about it, and then C, because it's kind of teasing, it's kind of a pre-chorus into the actual chorus. And then, okay, there's the chorus, the 2 halves of the chorus. I also varied my verse. So if you guys remember, I said there was a point where everything kind of slims down. That is the 3rd variation of the verse there, the V2 double prime, as I have it written there. And that kind of extends the verse again. And then I have chorus 2, and then a final breakdown bridge. And again, I tease the chorus in that bridge, but during that bridge, that last one, I really use a different progression underneath it. And at the very end, which I consider the peak of the song in this remix, I have the verse and the chorus layered on top of each other. So there's verse vocals, chorus vocals, and then the chorus progression is what's really driving that last piece, and then outro at the end. Again, I know it's a little complicated, but when we listen to it, because we're here now at the final result, I want you to, I got my nifty laser pointer here, can follow through with the sections as we go through it. But basically, once I had the arrangement down, one of the last steps in my workflow is really just listening through and making sure that my transitions sound good from section to section, making sure the listener doesn't get bored, making sure there's plenty of variation, and then, of course, adjusting the actual audio engineering of the mix, which I think I ended up with. Including this presentation, I actually saved as a new project when I had the project open. I had 20 versions of it, and that's starting from the very beginning. And I also like to order how I save things so that if I ever want to go back, I can do that. But and then after the final mix, then I also did some mastering. So I was tweaking the overall mix as a whole when all the pieces were kind of put together. And then what we end up with is the final result. So if you guys are ready to hear it, we'll play it in just a second. I'm going to follow along with the structure so you can kind of follow along. For the example, I cut off the intro and the outro. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. Okay, let's hear it.